It was a dark night, but empty of peace. The streetlights seeped through the curtains, casting strange shadows on the walls of the room. I sat by the window, my cigarette smoke curling upward, as if it carried all the decisions of my life. One decision, the one that had destroyed everything. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 38 years old. Once a man who dreamed, now a man drowning in debts, bills, and broken hopes. My wife Lauren, the woman who always stood by me, gentle, loyal, beautiful. We lived in a small town in Ohio. Life wasn't easy, but somehow we kept going. Money problems slowly began to suffocate our marriage. Lauren would often say, "Ethan, it's going to be okay. Just hold on a little longer." I'd smile back, but the emptiness inside me kept growing. One day, fate brought me face to face with my old friend Ryan Hale. Ryan was the kind of man who seemed to succeed at everything. Expensive suits, big cars, and that arrogance only money can buy. We were sitting in a cafe drinking coffee. Ryan laughed and said, "Man, you've changed. Looks like life has beaten you down." I gave a faint smile. He leaned forward a little and said, "Look, if you're really in trouble, I can help you." I was startled. Help? How? Ryan set his cup down and looked me straight in the eyes. "I want to be with your wife, Lauren, for one night. Right in front of you. No deception, no games. In return, I'll give you enough money to change your life." It was like bells ringing in my ears. I laughed it off. "You're joking, right?" But his face stayed serious. "I'm not joking, Ethan. Every man has a price. What's yours?" A wave of anger ran through me. I wanted to get up and leave, but at that moment my mind filled with images of debt, overdue bills, and the fear that grew heavier each month. I couldn't sleep that night. Lauren lay next to me, but I stayed awake staring at the ceiling. Was I really this weak? Then a voice inside me whispered, "It's only one night. Everything will be over, and your life will change." When the sun rose, I stood in front of the mirror, shame on my face, but decision in my eyes. I picked up the phone and called Ryan. My voice trembled as I said, "All right, I'm in." That moment, the biggest deal of my life was sealed, and I had no idea the real cost would be my soul. That evening is still burned into my memory. The room was dimly lit, rain tapping on the glass, the air filled with a silent tension. Ryan sat across from me, his eyes fixed on my wife Lauren. I could feel the strange silence between them, words unspoken but heavy in the air. I told myself, this is just a conversation. Maybe I'm imagining things. But my heartbeat kept getting faster. Ryan spoke softly. "You both have always been good to me. Tonight, I can change your life." I stared at him. "What do you mean?" He smiled, like there was a secret written on his face. "Just agree to one thing, and watch how your fate turns." I hesitated for a moment. Then he said slowly, "I'll give you enough money to never worry again. On one condition, Lauren stays with me tonight." My breath stopped. The room seemed to spin. Lauren looked at me in shock, fear and disbelief in her eyes. I stayed silent, breaking inside but frozen on the outside. The moment stretched into an eternity. Ryan reached out and held Lauren's hand. That moment felt like the longest second of my life. I was watching everything but couldn't speak. There were tears in Lauren's eyes, but also a strange calmness, like something in her was letting go. I lowered my gaze. Inside me, a storm raged: anger, pain, helplessness, all at once. Time stood still. Rain hit the window harder, and that night turned the course of my life forever. Weeks later, Lauren avoided my eyes and said quietly, "I have to tell you something." I looked into her eyes. She was trembling like she was holding a huge secret inside her chest. "I'm pregnant." The words stuck in my throat. That night flashed before my eyes. That moment, that deal. And now everything was clear. When the money came, the world suddenly looked different. Ryan handed me the payment, neat stacks of bills that silenced every mental calculation. We paid our rent in advance. Our debts vanished on paper. I bought the furniture we'd needed, a better washing machine. Little things that put a momentary smile on Lauren's face. For a brief time, I felt relief. I told myself, this is for her, for us, and buried my shame under that excuse. The first night Lauren left with Ryan, something inside me broke. She stood at the door, small bag in her hand, that silent pain on her lips. She looked at me once, maybe with hope, maybe with a reflection I didn't want to see. I said quietly, "This is just temporary. You'll come back." She walked out. I shut the door and cursed myself for agreeing. But when I saw our bank account, When I saw her smile for a day or two, I convinced myself I'd done the right thing. Nights passed like this. Ryan came over, spent time with Lauren, while I sat outside in the yard rubbing my hands together. From the outside, we looked like a successful couple. New lights, better food, the appearance of stability. But that peace was hollow. Lauren's face carried the glow money brings, but hidden inside were the sobs I didn't want to hear. Sometimes she'd laugh. Sometimes she'd come home barefoot and go straight to the bathroom without a word. If I asked, she'd just give vague answers or stay silent. One evening I asked myself, is this really for us? Is this the life I traded my dignity for? The answer wasn't easy. I told myself time would heal it, that this was a price we had to pay to be free from debt. But at night the fear woke me. What would this deal cost in the end? I was no longer the man who earned honestly. I'd become the man who chose an easy way out. Lauren too was changing, not softly, but like a slow-moving storm that filled our home with grey air. Sometimes she'd whisper, "What have we gained, Ethan?" And I'd answer, "We've found peace, Lauren." That lie became part of our nights. Then one evening she came home late, a note in her hand, something new in her eyes, exhaustion mixed with hope. She looked at me and said, "I did this for you, for a better life. I know it was hard, but I'm with you." I said nothing. Outside I smiled. Inside I turned to stone. That night a new fear awoke in me, that our lives were slipping beyond my control. Money had changed our language, our thoughts, and our dreams. I could feel a truth creeping under my skin, waiting to burst. Time passed. The money kept coming. Our home looked richer, but the peace we once called love had died behind those walls. Lauren was no longer the same. The smile that once softened my heart now looked forced, and I couldn't look at myself anymore. Every night when she left with Ryan, I'd tell myself it was temporary, but deep down a voice screamed, "You've sold your wife, your love, your life." One night Lauren came home with a different look on her face. I asked, "Is everything okay?" She stayed silent, then whispered, "Ethan, I'm pregnant." The glass slipped from my hands. Silence filled the room. I looked into her eyes. There was no joy, only shame and fear. I knew this wasn't a beginning, but an ending. I tried to speak, but my tongue wouldn't move. One thought circled my head. This child isn't mine. The night was long. I stood by the window staring at the city lights. Their glow gone dull. Money, comfort, new furniture, all of it felt meaningless. The next morning I made a decision. I closed the bank account, left the house, and wrote Lauren a note. I thought money would bring us peace, but it only deepened our emptiness. "I'm leaving, maybe to find myself again. Be happy, Lauren. I've lost you, but I hope you find yourself." I slipped out of the city quietly. Through the car window, the passing scenery felt like witnesses to my choice. Some decisions give you wealth but steal your soul, and in the end I understood. Love can never be bought, and a moment's greed can cost you an entire lifetime.